good. I hate the way it says monitoring call. I always feel like the government's listening in to me. You suck, Donald Trump. Please don't kill me. Welcome down to the abyssal lair of the Radiophonic Sea Creatures. Hold A, B, and press start because I, Tokyo Choo Choo, am going to be your host today. And with me, as always, is a man who once stitched the Konami code into his underpants so he wouldn't forget it. It's Human Metal. How are you today, Human Metal?
I'm fine, and that paid off, actually. So, that's the only way I could have gotten through Contra and, fucking, I don't know, what else, XLA, maybe, probably, some of the Turtles games. That Konami code. Yeah. They should bring cheat codes back.
Yes,
Yeah.
They should bring them back. Yeah, I think the last one was kind of like a Grand Theft Auto tends to have quite a lot of cheat codes in it. Or at least they did on the PS2. I don't know about nowadays.
Though, to be fair, today they would probably be laden with microtransactions. Like here, if you want to have 10 extra lives, buy them, asshole.
Oh, well, yeah. That's definitely going to work because you have infinite lives in Grand Theft Auto, but crime pays. You can live eternally. So today we are going to be going hardcore retro. So Human Metal and I are both retro game fans, and we both have picked up the Super Famicom Mini.
Super NES Mini for the for the people not residing in Japan at the moment.
Oh yes, the SNES Mini, yeah, the Super. Sorry, I want to talk. In fact, I didn't pick up the Famicom Mini. I picked up the Super Famicom Mini. Did I say Super Famicom Mini?
Yes, you did. I just corrected you just with a name because
you're confusing me, Human Metal. Yeah. Oh, anyway, yes, we picked up the SNES Mini. Mm-hmm. However, what's the point in picking up an SNES Mini if you don't hack it? There basically is no point, really. So of course, Human Metal and I have hacked our SNES Mini using HackG, and then I think we both installed RetroArch, which is a hack that allows you to. Yeah, an emulator hack that allows you to play a whole bunch of systems, including like the Sega Genesis or Mega Drive or Game Boy Advance, the original Famicom or NES, etc. Even N64 games will sort of run on it, although not very well. So I don't really have time in my life to start fiddling about with N64 games that don't run properly.
Just wait for the N64 Mini. It's going to come.
Yeah. That's going to be in a much bigger box because that controller is huge. That's a beast.
With much fewer games, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, there weren't that many great ones on N64 to begin with, but still.
That's well.
Not as many as on the SNES Mini, but we get to that.
But the ones that were great were great. Though.
That's true. Game changers. Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time alone are history at this point. So
Perfect Dark is just amazing. GoldenEye's unplayable these days, though.
Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
We are literally getting into the future.
But I think I want to do before we get into this is quickly rattle off what is on the NES Mini and on the Super NES Mini, because we're obviously not going to put those games on our hacked Super NES. Because they're already on there. So, but in case you're wondering, hey, why are they not naming those games? Those are great games. It's because they're already on there, and maybe if you are not aware. So let me quickly do a rundown of this shit. So for the NES Mini, we have Balloon Fight. Well, okay, then you can delete that maybe. Bubble, Castlevania 2, Donkey Kong Jr., Double Dragon 2: The Revenge. Dr. Mario, Excite Bike, also a game I really liked in my youth. Final Fantasy, the first one. Galaga, Ghosts and Goblins, Gradius, Ice Climber. Then we have Kid Icarus. Then we have Kirby's Adventure, a game that definitely would have landed on my list if that wasn't already on the system, because that's one of my favorite games of all time. Mario Bros, Mega Man 2, the original Metroid, the first Ninja Gaiden. Then the NES port of Pac-Man. I don't know why that is on there, because that's not supposed to be really good. Punch-Out, which would have made your list. Yeah,
yeah, it's one of my favorite games.
Star Tropics probably would have made my list too. Super C, which is Contra 2 for the European listeners. That would be Pro Protector 2.
That just makes me think like Super Cunt.
Yeah, kind of. Then we have the 3 Super Mario Brothers game. Naturally, they have to be on there, so they won't be on our list. Then we got Tecmo Bowl. Not interesting for me because I'm not into American football. But we get to the game that I would have put it on there instead later. Then the first Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. That's a pretty good selection. I mean, there are some, games that I would have, kicked out.
Don't be dissing Bubble Bobble. That would be
No, not Bubble Bobble, but Balloon Fight, maybe not. Donkey Kong, yeah, maybe. Like I said, maybe not the NES port of Pac-Man, and most definitely not Tecmo Bowl, just because I'm not interested in that. But aside from that, it's a pretty good selection of, all-time classics for the NES. So, yeah. However, the selection for the SNES Mini is like pretty much almost flawless, only in that, maybe there could have been more games. But the games that are on there are pretty great. So, and there are fewer, so we'll be faster through this list as well. So, first we got Contra 3, The Alien Wars. I really like that game. Donkey Kong Country, the first one. Earthbound, which was Mother in Japan, or was it Mother 2?
I think it was like Mother 2 or something, yeah.
All right. Then we got Final Fantasy 3 in the US, which is 6 in Japan, which is one of the all-time favorites for a lot of people. We got the first F-Zero. We got...
oh, that's a good game. That's a great game.
We got Kirby Superstar, which is a nice game. Not as good as...
But not as good as Dreamland 3, though.
No.
Either.
Yeah. Which I haven't played, which I'm gonna, get to. Anyway. Then we got Kirby Stream Cross. That's a fun multiplayer game where, Kirby's a golf ball. Sure, why not? Mega Man X. That would have definitely made my list if it wasn't on there, because that's probably my favorite game of all time. So there you go. I'm glad they put that on there. And next to that, the other game that, it was a top contender for maybe favorite game of all time, Secret of Mana. That's also on there, and it's also fantastic. Then we got the first Star Fox. The second Star Fox, which is a first-time release for that game, is on that SNES Mini. And we got Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting.
Nice.
Why this is on there instead of Super Street Fighter 2? I think some people like some things about Turbo more than about Super. The announcer, I think, was his thing, and I don't know, some other few tidbits.
I would have gone for Super Street Fighter myself.
Yeah, me too. Like, just for the virtue of there being more characters, and Fei Long being in there. Fei Long is probably one of my favorite Street Fighter characters and everything. So, next one is Super Castlevania 4, which you don't have on your Japanese version, right?
We don't have that on the Super Famicom. We have like a Fire Emblem, which wasn't released in the West, but no Super Castlevania. So that would have made my list. But it's on the Western one, so there's no point to put it on there.
Then we got Then we got Super Ghosts and Ghosts, tough as nails game, and a lot of performance issues, but it still looks good. We got the original Super Mario Kart. Great. Doesn't compare to 8. I played a lot of Mario Kart 8, and then I went back to the Super Nintendo. Then I was this is driving on soap.
It doesn't even compare to the N64 one, which is really good.
Yeah, but it's still a fun game. I played that game a lot as a kid with my friends, so it deserves to be on there.
I would rather play F-Zero though. I think in the context of the Super Famicom Mini. Then
next one, Super Mario RPG: Legend of the Seven Stars, a game that I've only played like a few hours of. I intend to get through it now. Then of course Super Mario World. This definitely belongs there. Super Metroid, naturally.
Oh yeah, that's probably the best SNES game for me personally. Yeah. That's my favorite.
So doesn't have to be on your list either. Super Punch-Out is maybe the only kind of questionable one. It's a good game. It's fun, but
It ain't as fun as the NES version though.
Yeah, kind of. So
no, it isn't. It flat out isn't. Yeah. Like the NES version of Punch Out was amazing, was a classic, but the SNES versions,
all right, can't attest to that. So I don't know. And then we close out with, of course, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, also all-time classic. For many considered to be the best Zelda game. Some would say Ocarina of Time. It's always a head-to-head between those two. Maybe now Breath of the Wild is up there. I don't know. And the last one being Yoshi's Island. Some people don't like that game. I don't know why. I think it's great. I think it's one of the really great platformers out there. I get why the baby is annoying. It's to me too, but I think just in terms of level design, in terms of movement, I mean, there's a reason why speedrunners love the fuck out of that game. Anyway, so those are the games that are on both systems, and now we can decide, hey, we got this nice little new console that is hackable. What other games that are, from the retro years are worth putting on this system and are worth revisiting and replaying again? So yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. So yeah, let's definitely get into that. But before Human Metal and I, probably neither of us have this on our list, but I think it just needs to be mentioned. Super Mario All Stars needs to be on your hacked Super Famicom Mini.
Yeah.
Because that contains all of the original Mario games, like updated with full 16-bit graphics. So that's essential. So, but that's kind of covered in the lists and isn't going to make any of our lists, but is one of those games that's just immediately just essential. You just need that game. So there you go.
And like I said,
why that wasn't on there anyway. I don't know. Why wasn't that on the system?
Maybe because the first three games were already on the NES Mini, and they were like, okay, we have those three games at least in their original container already in on one of those systems. So Super Mario All Stars would maybe moot. But I put it on there, like I'm like, okay, sure.
Yeah, I definitely put it on there. Yeah,
but it's not in my top list. Like it's great. It's a great collection, but still, I got some games that I would like rather revisit maybe. So
all right. So let's get the list started. Which one of us is going to go first? So I should say Human Metal and I have different approaches to our lists, which might be slightly confusing. So Human Metal's list is more, I guess, structured in his own way, where I think it's kind of random, maybe.
No, not really. The difference between me and Chuchu is he got a bunch of games from different consoles on there, and I basically only would put like NES and SNES games on there. And since a lot of good games are already on the NES Mini, it's only gonna be 3 NES games for me, and the rest is Super Nintendo games. So I'm gonna name the 3 NES games first, 3, 2, 1, and then gonna go starting from 7 for the SNES games, and you're just gonna do a top 10 with all the games that you would consider should be put on a retro console.
Yes,
like this
in a relative countdown order as well. So for me, in a relative kind of like worst to best kind of thing. But of course, that's a bit arbitrary and doesn't. Yeah,
for me,
I'm sure my decision can change at any time. So
yeah, for me, it's totally arbitrary. It's like, okay, the number 1 spot is a definite, but aside from that, everything could be mixed up completely in a random order. I consider all of these games to be cool, and so.
Oh, fuck you, Human Metal. I've put some thought into that. I literally changed my list about 5 times based on that.
Yeah, fuck me, right? Sorry.
Arbitrary my ass. Well, Human Metal, would you like to go first?
Sure. So let's start with my number 3 for the NES list, and that is Nintendo World Cup.
Shit! I literally played that yesterday.
I would put this on there instead of Tecmo Bowl, obviously, because, I'm from Europe, I'm from Germany, and we don't, are not that familiar with American football, but we get our own, original football. And this is the football game I played on the NES, like, to death. This was part of a 3-pack for the NES, a bundle where you get, you get Tetris, you get Super Mario Brothers, and you get Nintendo World Cup, and you get an adapter to play with 4 people, I think. So and you could play Nintendo World Cup with 4 people, and it was super fun. And the game is super wacky. It's cartoony. Like the characters look super weird. They don't have like names of real players or anything. It's just very broad stereotypes in terms of skin color and everything. But the fun thing is you got like super shots. if you did like a specific count of steps, starting from when you get the ball, or you did what is it called, a hook shot? I don't know. When you like a bicycle kick, when you like go in the air and spin backwards and kick with, that's that. If you do that, you do a super shot, and then the ball would split up in 2 balls, and then just run, dash forward through the to the goal, or it would like start to flash and pull a curve and then hit towards the goal. It was super fun to pulling these off, especially if you did it in the air. Could only do it in a short number of times, but still was super fun. So yeah, this is a fucking amazing, fun, stupid ass sports game, and I think this needed to be on there for me to revisit my NES memories, because I played a lot of that game.
I would agree. This was definitely one I considered for my own list as well. I played the shit out of that. The game is fucking hysterically funny. So funny, in fact, that as I said, I literally played it yesterday with my daughter. I decided to introduce my daughter, and we played it in 2-player mode. One of the fun things about that game is you can almost literally kill the other players on the pitch.
Yes.
So that no fouls are called. So, and if a player gets tackled enough times, he just lies down on the pitch dead.
Eyes like shooting out of his fucking head. Yeah. It's amazing.
I mean, he just lays prostrate on the pitch and just lays there for like until someone scores a goal or something.
And then you've got special fields, like there's an ice field, which is like super tricky to fouls on and everything, and you got sand fields. So yeah, it's very diverse and everything. Yeah, get a lot of mileage out of that game.
Yeah, I played the shit out of that when I was a boy, and just there comes an inevitable time in that game where you just forget about playing the game of soccer that you're supposed to be playing, and it just becomes about how many players can you actually kill.
Yeah.
Can you have the entire team? And it's a good game when you have both players crowding around the enemy goalkeeper trying to kick him to death. But unfortunately, sadly, the goalkeepers won't die.
Yeah.
They're the one teammate who's invincible.
Goalkeepers are invincible.
Damn it. Yeah, great times. Good stuff.
So, what's your number 10?
Okay, my number 10 is Super Bomberman 5 on the SNES. So I'm kicking off with an SNES game at number 10. So this might be a surprise. It was a surprise to Human Metal for Western audiences, because Super Bomberman 5 wasn't released in the West. It's a Japanese game, but the SNES Mini plays Japanese games, so no problem with that. You don't really need English for that game. So the reason Super Bomberman 5 makes the list over other Bomberman games is the fact that as that series progressed, it really did expand upon the ideas and just basically the amount of content that was in the game. So I think you have like 10 themed stages in the battle mode that you can play on, and they all have like different things like big ass snowballs rolling down the level, or you have this one where like it has these magnetic strips that draw all the bombs and all metallic items towards them and also push the players about. The one with the lethal, hilarious like Indiana Jones style cart where if you're on the tracks you get murdered. It's just a load of fun, and also there are many different characters. One of the problems with the early Bomberman games is there was just like Black Bomberman and White Bomberman, and that was it. That was your lot, or Pink Bomberman or Blue Bomberman. But in the later games, they actually had distinct characters. Like they had like a vampire game, like a big fat guy, like a dog, I think, with sunglasses on. So it's like the characters are more distinct.
There's my character I would pick.
the dog with sunglasses on.
Yes, definitely.
And there are more variety in like the kangaroos that you can ride. They have different powers. Like there's like for example a magician one that obscures the location of the bombs. He's a real pain in the ass. And one that he has like a big pogo stick, and you can like pogo over the bomb blast if you time it just right to get out of tight spots. There's a lot of expansion on the battle game, and it's a shit ton of fun. Just to play in 2-player or 4-player, I guess. I don't know if the NES Mini can actually has like a multi adapter or anything, but
I don't think
if it did, if it did, it would be super fun. But still, playing Bomberman in 2-player is great. My daughter and I have been caning that game recently. She loves it. So yeah, there you go. you're looking for the best Bomberman game on the Super Famicom or the SNES, it's Super Bomberman 5 without question.
Neat. I've only played the second one, but I enjoyed that thoroughly. So maybe now I should check out 5. I mean, I can.
Yeah, you should definitely. Yeah. It's great.
All
right. Number 9.
Number 2 on the NES list for me.
That's right.
So right. Number 2 on the NES list is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: The Arcade Game, which is for people who've maybe played the first Turtles game on the NES, that's that's questionable quality. I mean, there's some interesting parts about this game, but some of the controls are really ass, and some of the levels are really shit. So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 is a completely different game, as in it's pretty much a classic side-scroll brawler, like Final Fight, and a game we will talk about later, probably on this list. You just walk from left to right mostly and kick foot soldiers' asses with your, a specific chosen turtle. You got like a basic attack, but you can also do like a super attack that costs a bit of your life bar, where turtles jump in the air and hit their enemies. And the game had like 10 stages, I think. The good part about the NES port, because this was an original arcade game, of course it's a visual downgrade, but the NES port got 2 extra levels. I think it was 2? Yeah. And those are pretty great. Good stuff. And overall, this is one of the games that I sunk the most time in on my NES. I played through that with a friend of mine, like, I don't know, 3 times, 4 times, because it's not a super long game. It's not super short either, but it's got just the right length if you play it from beginning to end in an afternoon with a friend. And you probably need we needed the fucking Konami cheat code to get through there, because it's kind of hard, but it's super fun. The stages are varied, and the foot soldiers have interesting, different attacks and everything. So yeah, it's a fun game. There was a third one, which I didn't play as much of, that was better in some parts, not as good in others. And some of the stages were kind of lackluster, some were better. But yeah, the second one is just a great port. Has fantastic music, in my opinion. I actually like the NES soundtrack more than I like the arcade soundtrack for that game. And yeah, good stuff. It's just an all-around great Turtles game, and would only be surpassed by the next generation. So there you go.
Oh, I played the arcade game when I was a kid quite a bit. It was like that, and the Simpsons one too.
Oh yeah, that's a great game too.
Yeah, they're both really, really good games. The NES port, for whatever reason, I sort of bypassed it. I mean, I knew it was around, and I played it a little, but I never really got into Turtles 2. I have, however, put it on my Super Famicom Mini, so I'm definitely thinking about playing that at some point, because I did love the arcade game. But yeah, I don't really have too much to add to that. Yeah,
the two extra stages are cool. Like, if you don't know them, you can know them from the arcade game, so it's probably worth checking it out for that alone.
Yeah, I will certainly play through that at some point.
All right.
Coming on to number 9. So, it's a Game Boy Advance game. So with RetroArch, you can actually put, as I said, you can put all sorts of systems on. So Game Boy Advance has some really good games on it. Here comes one of the best ones, Advance Wars. Yeah, that's a good game. So a strategy game that starts out very, very simple. It's like top down, and you move in a grid format. You have the combat system kind of works on a rock paper scissors sort of thing. Like tanks beat foot soldiers, artillery beats tanks, flying bombers beat artillery, etc. Like this. It's there's a good, well balanced rock paper scissors format to the game, and it has beautiful anime cutscenes. And like when what are they called? Like the generals have these special powers that they can unleash on the battlefield. So they all come with like nice anime style, animations, cutscenes when they do it. when they do their special powers, and also there's actually a story to follow, and the story is well written and funny, and yeah, has likable anime characters in it. I believe there's a couple of teams you can choose that all have different stories. However, they unlock at various points during the game. And I think they all sort of view the same scenario just through different eyes, which is kind of like Dragon Force. And it feels to me like a natural expansion to Dragon Force, which is one of my favorite games of all time. So just, yeah, really great top-down strategy game. Starts off easy, gets fucking hellaciously difficult by the end. I mean, it's a real brain buster by the end. It's hardcore. Like one of those things, like if you make like one or two mistakes, you're looking at an hour and a half trying to repair the damage to a sinking ship that is going to sink no matter what you do. Fuck. So I've not managed to ever finish that game because it gets hardcore at the end. I mean, like one battle will set you back an hour and a half. But it's just a great game and just so much fun, and definitely worth having on your SNES Mini, and yeah, worth checking out.
Yeah.
Any opinions on Advance Wars?
I've never played it because I'm not into strategy games a lot. So I think the only one I played through was Valkyria Chronicles, and I tried my hand at Fire Emblem and stuff like that, but it just isn't, my thing. Just this grid-based, strategy thing. But yeah, it sounds fun. It sounds like a lot of people would like, a new Advance Wars game in some form or another. Maybe the Switch will be the console. I've heard a new game called Tiny Metal is trying to get into that vein. I don't know how that is panning out, but yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about Advance Wars. Maybe Nintendo should bring that franchise back.
Oh, one good thing about Advance Wars, which I failed to mention, which is absolutely an essential selling point and just fantastic. You can have multiplayer matches with a friend.
Oh, nice.
Against bots with one controller. Basically, you just pass the controller between you because it's like turn-based.
Okay.
And everybody gets to take their turn. So my brother and I have had like hellacious strategic bloodfests on that game just with the one controller. So I think that works very well for the SNES Mini as well. It's a really, really good multiplayer game, especially like I say, because you can have bots on there as well. You can have like your team, your mate's team, and like two enemy teams, and it's just like a total fucking free for all. It's great fun.
All right,
sounds good. What's next? Number 8.
Number 8.
Or number 1.
Number 1 for me for the NES run. And that, of course, big surprise! Who is talking on the microphone right now? It's gotta be a Mega Man game. And it's a really tough choice for me because just in terms of nostalgia worth, I guess, I would put Mega Man 3 on there because that was my first Mega Man game. And I really enjoy that. But that game has a lot of flaws. There are like 4 stages that get revisited in the middle part of the game, and those remix stages suck ass. Like, they're some of the worst stages in Mega Man history. Like, it's garbage. And so aside from that, the game is fantastic. I love it to death. But if I want to recommend a complete package that is an all-around fantastic Mega Man game, and that I consider to be better than Mega Man 2, which is, the go-to child. Everyone said, oh, this is when they perfect the formula. No, in my opinion, not. Some people said, after that, the Mega Man game stayed the same, and 2 was peak. No, I don't think that. I think the peak it reached, weirdly enough, with the second to last installment on the console with Mega Man 5. I think that's still the best Mega Man game on that console. I think it's all-around fantastic. It's fun. It's got great music. It's got great stages, great stage design, a lot of extra fun special weapons, some stinkers in there too, but aside from that, really cool stuff. And I think it's the best looking Mega Man game, and despite what people say, yes, those games look different, and this is got the best background art and the best stage layout and everything. So yeah, I consider this to be the best Mega Man game on the NES, and that's why it's my number 1 for the games that should be put on there that are not already in there. So, there you go. Big surprise. Human Metal shows fucking Mega Man game was number 1 NES game. Anyway, we'll get back to that too. So,
well, there you go. I'm not a huge Mega Man fan myself, but you learn something new every day because the only Mega Man game that I put on my SNES Mini, apart from X, which was already on there, was Mega Man 2. So I've never even thought about playing Mega Man 5, but perhaps I should. I will check it out, Human Metal. Off you go
All
back
right.
to your recommendation. All right. So number 8 on my list is a space shooter. So yeah, space shooters are pretty common on both the NES and the SNES. To be honest, there's a lot of shit you have to wade through to find a good one. There's a lot of like real bland clones, but without question, my favorite space shooter, and it's just a fucking amazing game, is Parodius.
Oh yeah. Which one
so-
though?
The rich one, Gokuju Parodius, the Japanese version. Okay, because on the Super Famicom you have the Western version of Parodius, but for some reason the developers, whatever, trimmed out all the fucking interesting parts of it because of, I don't know, to appeal to Western audiences. So in the original, in Japanese version, the character selection that you can choose from is nuts. You have a flying baby with a rattle. Who attacks enemies. You have like an octopus with a sun cap. You have Dracula. I don't know. You have a stick man on a paper airplane. You have Goemon, the ninja character from other popular Japanese games. You have like a whole bunch of crazy characters, and I think in the Western version you just have the boring ass spaceships, and maybe you have Twinbee. I'm not sure about that.
You have Twinbee, you have the spaceship, you have the octopus, and a fourth one that I can't remember, the penguin.
The penguin, yeah, the penguin's definitely in there. But in this one, you have like a baby, you have Dracula, you have Goemon, you have like a whole bunch of extra characters. And each of those ships kind of have their own separate power-up systems, so it's worth checking out like different versions and finding which one suits you. But the reason...
Sorry, go first.
Sorry, no, was it Human Metal?
There were several, at least 2 Parodius games on the Super Nintendo, right, in Japan? Was it Parodius Da and another one? And I think we got only one of those here in the West.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about Gokuju Parodius, whichever one that is. To be honest, I'm not really sure. But just check out.
We got that.
Just check out Japanese Parodius because it's amazing. But as the title suggests, Parodius comes from the word parody, right? Which is exactly what Parodius is. It's a parody of space shooters. So all the enemies are fucking nuts. They're crazy. They're cute ass kittens and penguins and gacha machines and flying chickens and like, for example, to give you a good example, the first boss. What do you have? A scary monster? No, you have a panda in a tutu with a duck coming out of his head. Like with classical music. Like plays in the background, and like you fight it like that, and his weak point is the duck that's growing out the panda's head while it does ballet and tries to kill you and throws like chickens at you. It's fucking insane. It's crazy. Like, and the second boss is this giant warship that has the head of a kitten and meows when you shoot it. It's brilliant. It's a totally insane space shooter, and there's a whole level where you have to like shoot your way through a giant cake well the kind of like the icing and like gemstones fall from the ceiling trying to crush you. It's so much fun. It makes you laugh. It's challenging and it's fun and it's badass, and I don't know, it's great. The only thing lacking in it is a decent 2-player mode, because you can play 2-player, but it's the original Mario 1 style where you play and then you die, and then the other player takes takes their turn. That is kind of lame. Whereas you really want something like Life Force Salamander on the NES, where you're both there like together on the same screen. So that would have made the game better. But beggars can't be choosers. So great game. What do you think about Parodius Human Metal?
Oh, I love it. I only played, of course, the Western version, and I just looked it up. Apparently, there are 3 Parodius games on the SNES, at least in Japan. And the one we got is Parodius Da, Shinwa Kara Owarai He. All right. And then, like you said, there's Gokujo Parodius and Jikyo Shaberi Parodius. Okay. So there are a lot of Parodius games on the SNES, and I've only played one of them, but I liked what I played, and I would like to revisit that series. So yeah, definitely put that on your SNES Mini and enjoy a good, fun shoot 'em up that is kind of crazy. And if you think if you like that, you got two more games to put on there. So there you go.
Although definitely go for Gokuju Parodius before the original Parodius, because it's better. It has an expanded roster of characters, and why limit yourself to, very basic characters? Although sure. I would like to try that third Parodius game though, to see if it's different.
Haven't played them, so tell me about it once you did it.
Number 7.
Number 7.
That's right. It would be number 7 this time.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
We have finally arrived in my SNES list. So from here on out, it's straightforward numbering 7 to 1. And number 7 is a little game called Rock and Roll Racing. And that was developed by Silicon and Synapse. That might not ring a lot of bells, but if you look up what it's called today, that might, be more familiar, and it's Blizzard Entertainment. So, that is a racing game from early Blizzard, with this kind of a spiritual successor to the RC Pro-Am series on the NES. There were 2 games of those. So it's basically like an isometric top-down view on the racing track, and you have to steer your car like in a Micro Machines way, kind of on around the corners and everything. And you got weapons, you got boosters. Your cars can jump if you equip them appropriately. You can upgrade your cars with new motor parts. You can buy different cars. You can steer a hovercraft. You can buy like a little buggy, and there's a lot of cool shit in this game. You rise on different planets. You race against different crazy aliens. It's a super fun game with a great soundtrack, because the soundtrack consists of 16-bit versions of classic rock tracks, like Paranoid, for example, that is in there, and a lot of other cool stuff. And it's super enjoyable. Again, you get a lot of mileage if you want to like buy all the cars and play all the tracks and all the different cups. And it's super fun. It's like it's a racing game I put a lot of time in, and it's just fun. It takes some time getting used to the controls, but once you do, and once you know how to aim and shoot and everything, it gets super fun. Yeah. So my number 7, Rock and Roll Racing, should be on there. Fun game.
Yeah, that sounds like fun, Human Metal. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think I've just literally made a note of that in my notebook here to download. But while you were talking about that, suddenly that set off some kind of alarm trigger in my brain, and like this tidal wave of games came that I haven't downloaded yet. And suddenly I've literally noted like Super Off-Road, which is an isometric game that I used to love on the NES, Super Sprint, Ikari Warriors, Total Carnage, and Chaos Engine. Like, it came to mind. I was like, oh shit, I'm on a roll here. Games I should totally download. Oh man. Yeah, so that sounds like a lot of fun. I like Micro Machines. I love Super Off-Road, which is kind of a similar-esque a game to that. But however, I always thought Rock and Roll Racing, obviously I was mistaken, was a bit like Super FX Racer, but obviously I'm wrong about that. The Rare racing game, that's the kind of like Star Fox, but in a racing game and shit. To boot.
No. No, it's classic sprite based and looks cool, very metal. So I had to choose it, obviously. So what's your number 7?
Definitely check that out. Okay. So we all go out sometimes and try to find that Japanese game that no one's ever heard of, right? And we check out just random Japanese games and see if we can find, a classic that none of our friends knows about. I found one. It's brilliant. It's perfect. It is a perfect game that no one in the fucking West knows about. It's called Go-Go Ackman.
You told me about this.
Go-Go Ackman is brilliant. It's absolutely perfect. There are 3 Go-Go Ackman games, actually. So it must be doing something right, because it's got 3 games. Although the second one's shit for some reason, but the third one's pretty good too. So Go-Go Ackman is a 2D platformer about like the son of the devil, talking about rock and roll, and he's fighting against angels and God.
Right.
And he basically goes out and like collects kills little angels and collects their souls and stuff. It's very, very funny game. The bosses in it are nuts. A bit like Parodius. One guy you have like this like CIA assassin, like hilarious military assassin guy. Another guy you have this like really narcissistic girl with like a fan. It's proper comedy, full bore. There are a lot of funny things in there. Hard to explain, but it's just one of those perfect 2D platformers. The controls are tight, the levels are really, really well designed. It works on a very easy system. Like you've got like 4 life slots. You get hit 4 times, you die. You can pick up power-ups like a pistol or like a katana blade or something, but you get hit once like Mario and you revert back to your standard weapons.
Okay.
Yeah, and you have like a super attack where you can like throw bombs and stuff, and it clears the enemies on the screen and helps you with the boss fights and stuff. The bosses at the end of every level, there's a boss fight. You know, typical boss fight style. Those bosses have a pattern, a routine you need to get familiar with to beat them. It's just classic old school 2D, just magic really, and it's got beautiful graphics and is one of those games that nobody's ever heard of and just shit ton of fun. So go Ackman, download it, put it on your SNES Mini, and just have a shit ton of fun with it, because it is a great 2D platformer. And I think I have a really fond memory of my brother coming out to Japan, and we sat down and played that from start to finish, completed it, and it was just a ton of fun. One of the best platformers on the SNES in my opinion. And why didn't they translate that to the West? I have no fucking idea. It's
maybe
great.
too Japanese, and West being sensitive about playing the devil. I don't know.
Yeah, playing the devil who basically kills angels.
Exactly.
If you ever wanted to murder religious icons,
they would probably totally do it. But So which one is the best one? I
think for me personally, the first one is the best one. 2 changed up the mechanics and became like a weird, like added like stealth elements to it, which I didn't really particularly dig. I don't think anybody really digged that, because the third one
stealth is the worst.
Yeah. The third one, you can see it was a failure, because the third one reverted back to what the first one did. Mm-hmm. However, the third one, I feel, in my opinion, is a bit too challenging for me. I mean, I'm not a hardcore game player, and definitely they ramped up the difficulty with the third one. So I definitely check out the first one. If you love it, go to the third one, skip the second one, because I think that just didn't work well. All right, what's number 6 on your list?
Number 6 on my list is an RPG, and that is Illusion of Gaia, which is an Enix game. And this was battling out with some of the other RPGs I played, with Secret of Evermore, with Seiken Densetsu 3, which is Secret of Mana 2. But Illusion of Gaia wins over it because it's kind of unique in several ways. It's part of a trilogy, which I haven't played the other 2 games of. The one that came before this is Soul Blazer, and the one after this is Terranigma. It's part of that series. It's the second game in that series. And
I've played all 3 of those in various forms.
So there you go. And I only played this one. I want to go back and play the other 2 too, because I only recently learned it's part of a trilogy. And since I like this one so much, I thought, I should check out those others too. So this is the fun thing about this is it's kind of set in a partially historically, but not really a version of our Earth. You got some real life ruins in there, like Incan ruins. You got the Nazca Lines, you got Angkor Wat, the Great Wall of China, the Egyptian pyramids, and those are basically the dungeons that you go into and that fight monsters and bosses and everything. And the other fun part is your main character through the course of the game learns to transform into 2 different forms. Basically, you're playing this young boy named Will, who can battle with a stick, and he learns some special moves and stuff. But he can also later transform into a Dark Knight with a cool sword and everything, who can do certain special moves. And then only in the last dungeon, which I find to be kind of a shame, because I would have liked to play with that form longer. You can become like a living flame shadow thing that can like fuse with the floor and everything, and shoot a flame sword and stuff like that. So yeah, fun mechanics in that game. Great atmosphere, fantastic music, pretty cool story as far as Super Nintendo RPG stories go. Yeah, good stuff. I don't know if this is like I don't think this is an overlooked gem or something, but it's I've not seen that many people talk about it, and I think it's one of the best RPGs on that system. And like I said, part of a trilogy. All games of that are supposed to be really good, so I'm gonna check out Soul Blazer and Terra Enigma too. But for now, Illusion of Gaia is my number 6 and should definitely be on an SNES Mini.
Yes, I would agree with that. Although I think it's more famous than you're giving it credit for. I think it is a widely well received and popular game. I mean, I always knew of Illusion of Gaia when I was growing up. My friends used to talk about it.
In Europe, it was called Illusion of Time, I think. So people who were like, "What?" Okay.
Although, yes, that's right. I think it was. For some reason, though, I'm aware of it as Illusion of Gaia more than Illusion of Time, but I'm not sure why that would be the case. I never played it on the original SNES, but I did play it on an emulator. I played quite
That's probably
a lot of it,
why
actually.
you played the US version then, and yeah.
I never actually finished it, but I did put some significant time into it and enjoyed that time as well. Sadly, though, it doesn't work on my Super Famicom Mini.
That's strange.
I think that's the thing with my Super. I have a Super Famicom Mini, so I have the Japanese version. So there are a couple of caveats with my thing, like it won't play Western Genesis games. It will only play Japanese Western Genesis games, and it has certain problems with certain Super Famicom games. Illusion of Gaia is one of them.
It's the same for the Western SNES Mini too, though. It's got problems with some Japanese ROMs too. So
Yeah,
there you go.
I guess so. Like I can't get Street Fighter Alpha 2 to work on it.
I can't get Tales of Phantasia to work, which is a shame because I always want to try out that game, but
Yeah, so there you go. Illusion of Gaia is one of the games that I tried to put on it, but just wouldn't work. So shit, fuck,
it's a shame.
Ass. Yeah.
For you people who have an SNES Mini and not a Super Famicom Mini, you know what to do.
Yep.
All right, what's your number 6? Right.
My number 6 is Jesus. Okay, so now we're into the hardcore games. We have arrived into the
Only now?
No. Yeah. Well, no. But I've decided that I'm suddenly going to change 5 and 6 because number 6 needs to be number 5.
All right.
So, as I said, arbitrary, but it needs to be changed. Okay, so we've almost arrived into the legitimately these are the best games of all time type territory. But we got one more stop before that. Although no, we're obviously already into the best games of all time here because Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah. So if you haven't put the original 3 games on your hacked SNES Mini, you're doing something wrong. You definitely need to have those original 3 games and Sonic and Knuckles as well. However, that's like saying Mario is good. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's like saying it's such a fucking...
If there was a Genesis Mini, obviously those 3 Sonic games would be on there. So.
Yeah, exactly. And nothing else, because I can't literally think of another Genesis game that was really, really good. Maybe Solil.
Contra Hardcore is supposed to be pretty good. Rocket Knight Adventures. What else?
Yeah, it's all right. I don't know. My friend really loved Rocket Knight. He would tell me day in, day out how good Rocket Knight Adventures is. Fuck me, he annoyed the shit out of me with that. But however...
Shining Force? I don't know.
I don't know. I was never a Shining Force fan, but I did love Shining Wisdom on the Sega Saturn, though. Which, ironically, was the least critically acclaimed of the whole franchise. I don't know what that says about me, but...
You got acquired taste.
I do. But, but I'm going to go a little bit more daring in my recommendation of Sonic games, because the one Sonic game that I really was excited to play on my big TV, finally, was Sonic Advance 2. From the Game Boy Advance, yeah. So Sonic Advance was a nice Sonic game, standard Sonic game, but Sonic Advance 2 was better because it did something interesting where it really, really concentrated on high speed. So the levels in Sonic Advance 2 were basically almost like a racetrack more than a level. So there was very little actual platforming in it. There was occasionally. So it was all about high speed and really high speed reactions. Because Sonic had this new move where you would like come off a spring or something, and then you would tap like the shoulder button, choose a direction, and he would like shift or phase like very quickly in that direction. And that was like the needed kind of a game mechanic to survive. But within that scheme, the design of the game was fucking perfect. It really was. It just ran smooth as butter, and like there was always like a lot of kind of exploration elements to finding different paths or different directions to shift and phase to. The level design and the graphics were brilliant. The soundtrack kicks fucking ass, man. It's such a good soundtrack, and it just has that kind of pulsing like whoom 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 beat to it when you play. It's like music.
Right.
It's brilliant. The bosses were fantastic but hardcore difficult, which is an interesting thing for the Sonic franchise because they're always moving. Do you know those annoying running like boss fights you have in Sonic games where you can't stop running, right?
Yeah.
And they're annoying as shit. Every boss in Sonic Advance 2 is like that. But they're like the best possible versions of those. So you really need to get your shit together. Like you really need to get your shit together with pacing and running and timing and jumping. It's just an absolute perfect Sonic game. I've finished it like multiple times. I went through a delusional period where I swore to God it was the best Sonic game ever made for a while. Then I woke up. But it's brilliant.
And Sonic Mania happened.
Yeah. Oh, that's a goddamn true story. But to see it on the big screen and to play it, and it just plays butter smooth, and to hear that soundtrack on the big screen is brilliant. So if you want to find a daring Sonic game rather than the bog standard obvious Sonic 1, 2, 3, Sonic and Knuckles, Sonic Advance 2, highly recommended. Any thoughts about those games?
I've never checked out Sonic Advance, and neither Sonic Rush or any of those, because it was like, okay, handheld games. I don't know. I was, because I didn't own a Genesis, I was never the biggest Sonic guy until the Dreamcast, until Sonic Adventure happened. But, I might go and revisit it. Sure, why not? I mean, we got the option. So, right. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. And with that, we're going to stop for a word from our sponsors.
Hi, my name's Bob. Did your grandmother die in the middle of the night? Do you want that old Betty's body out of your house lickety-split so you can move a new lodger in there? Call Bob's Human Disposal Service. Nobody's too big, small, mutilated, or illegal. If you're willing to watch me perform sexual acts on the cadaver, I'll give you a 20% discount. Contact Bob's Human Disposal Service today.
And we're back. So we're going to launch straight into our top 5 now. Yeah, we're into the top 5, the big top 5. So I guess with that in mind, we must be talking seriously about some of the best games ever made right here. Oh shit! So Human Metal, what's number 5 on your list?
Or some of our favorite games, because some of those might not be considered the generally best, but some that may give us fond memories of our youth, maybe.
Hang on a minute. That's another caveat that I wish to add to my list. I have played these within the last few games. I've really fucking played them over the last couple of days. Like all the games on my list. One of the caveats on my list was anything that I had nostalgia for but doesn't play good now, I've eliminated.
Okay.
So
good.
all of the games on my list play like butter now. They all play great.
Same for me, I guess.
All right. So there you go. So not just nostalgia. Best games ever made, people officially right. I'm joking. Yeah. But things are subjective. But to us, I guess these games are sort of some of the best games of all time, I guess. They are. That's right.
Yes.
So don't be Debbie Downer. Yeah, your screen's gone all weird.
Yeah, my camera decided to be an asshole. Hey, focus. There we go. All right.
He looks like what everybody looks like if you've been smoking a whole pound of weed.
Uh-huh. Yes. Pound of shit with hair in it. Anyway, my number. That's what weed smells to me like. That's when people smoke weed in my vicinity, it smells like. That's what I imagine it smells like when you burn shit with hair in it.
No, I'm fairly sure they smell different, human metal.
It smells like shit. That's all I'm saying. I'm not like bagging on people for you know for smoking weed. Do what you want, but it's just, to me, it smells like open ass. Anyway,
you could bang on them because they're so paced after they've been drinking weed. It's
Yeah,
like
sure.
you smack them in the face, and then like 2 seconds after you've done it, they're like, ugh.
Anyway, my number 5 is a sequel to a game that's already on the SNES Mini by default, but I consider the sequel to be superior to the original, and that's Donkey Kong Country 2. In my opinion, Donkey Kong Country 2 is much better than the first one, and overall, more fun game, more fun animals, more fun stages. Got a great like spooky pirate theme, horror theme going, and which I enjoyed very much. I liked the first one, don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed the first Donkey Kong Country a lot, but I played the shit out of the second one, and I thought the mechanics were a bit more fun, the two characters were a bit more different, and yeah, just overall, I think Donkey Kong Country 2 is superior to the first one, and definitely to the third one. Ugh. But yeah, in my opinion, that should have been on the SNES Mini by default and not the first one. But, you know, this is not a Make-A-Wish fountain, so gotta hack the SNES Mini and put it on there afterwards. But yeah, definitely, it's my favorite Donkey Kong Country game.
All right, and now we can all breathe a sigh of relief that Human Metal is not curating the official release of the the SNES Mini, because
How dare you!
I definitely prefer the first Donkey Kong Country to the second one.
Why though?
I don't know, because it's better.
No, disagree. And everyone I've asked, all 2 people have said that the second one is better. So there you go.
But to be fair, I think the second one came a bit too late in my life cycle of the SNES, so I don't think I probably gave it as much time as I should have, but I did play the shit out of the first one. So perhaps that's the difference. I got
the first one with my original SNES, so there you go. And I still consider the second one to be better. So nostalgia doesn't have a hold on me. Yeah,
well, again, I don't really remember much about the second one because I played it, but it didn't grab me, so I discontinued playing it. I stopped playing it. But definitely I played the crap out of the first one. So, I mean, who knows? I could be wrong. To be honest, I don't have enough memories of the second one to really warrant a proper opinion. I mean, I think I played like 1 or 2 levels and was just like, meh, whatever. Just put the controller down. But maybe if I had continued my decisions, my opinion would have been different. But definitely, as a baseline, I definitely preferred the first one. But who knows? I could be wrong. Yeah.
All right. What's your number 5?
Yeah, see, I'm thinking now because I did have something to say there, but in my alcohol-fueled fervor, I've totally forgotten what I wanted to say. But I did want to say something.
As it happens on this show.
Yes, that's the goddamn true story. That's the story, the untold story, or the very told story of the Radiophonic Sea Creatures. So number 5, here we go. Oh my fucking god, we are in the good stuff now. Number 5 is an NES game, one of my favorite NES games of all time, Kickle Cubicle.
I've heard of it. Haven't played it.
Kickle Cubicle is great. It is absolutely perfect in every possible way. How can you explain Kickle Cubicle? Man, that's a bitch. Oh, fuck. So, Kickle Cubicle is part action, part puzzle game. You play as this character who moves around a kind of like a grid-based format. It's always in an icy world because it revolves around ice, and the story of the game.
Hence the cubicle.
NES
kind of
cubicles. See, cubicles always remind me of just toilets, or at least those little cubes in toilets. Anyway, or kicking someone in the testicles. Kickle Cubicle. Never mind. But basically, the whole world is frozen over. Everything is ice. That's why you are kind of like in these ice worlds, and there's like small islands in the sea made of grid-based ice cubes. and your goal on each stage is to get money bags. I don't know what the fuck that has to do with the plot, but anyway, it's best not to think about that. You're supposed to get these fucking bags. I don't know what's in there. It might be weed for all I know. Man, he really needs that fucking weed. Save the world. But how you do that is enemies come out of these enemy spawn points, and you need to freeze them into ice blocks. Then you kick them into the water, and they make new pieces of land. So it's a puzzle game into how exactly to reach the bags that you're trying to get. At the same time, it's an action game because you actually have to avoid the enemies that are coming at you. But it starts off easy, but just like all good puzzle games, like Portal, it gets mind-bending at the end. You have like, for example, and it's like has this slow build-up where it gradually introduces more and more gameplay elements and more difficult scenarios. Like you have like elements where, for example, you have to like freeze an enemy, hit it, and make it rebound off a spring, but put a stopper down in the right position to stop the ice block to kick it to the correct position, like that. I mean, it's also a very thinking game as well. It's a brain taxer, especially in its more difficult moments. And there are really good arcade beats to it as well, where you need to like. Sometimes there'll be like a deadly kind of like spike ball on a specific island, but to get to the money bag, you're going to have to open that island. However, you need to figure out how to do it until the last possible moment to let that spike ball out, so then you can escape from it and like block it into a certain position on the map. There are also enemies, like different enemy types. Like for example, there's these fucking annoying as shit chickens that kick your blocks back at you. Anything you freeze, they will come along and immediately try to kick back at you. So like those motherfuckers, like you also need to like figure out how to block those into certain parts of the map so they cause you the least amount of problems. And at the end of every world, there's a boss character, which is a straight up boss fight. Usually revolves around they'll throw like huge ass like blocks of ice at you, which shatter into smaller pieces of ice. Then you need to get out of the way of their attack and kick those ice blocks back at them. So it's one of the most perfect NES games I've ever played. And not only that, it's timeless. Like the graphical style, the design of it is so perfect, it stands up today. And it's just as much fun to play now in this day and age as it was then, because it's so simple yet so well designed that it's just perfect. And I recommend everybody immediately get that on their system and give that a try, because I promise you that is fun times. Kickle Cubicle, there you go. I have no idea why it's not more famous. People always say it's a rip-off of like Adventures of Lolo or something, but that game's shit. And Kickle Cubicle's great.
Is it like super fast-paced and hard, or do you have time to make your moves?
Yeah, you have time to make your moves.
Okay.
Most of the standard enemies are not particularly threatening. They kind of like wander around in random places. I mean, there are times you're like, and you got to get out of there immediately. But most of the time, it's more like thinking. Like, there's a lot of time where you're just like thinking like Portal style. You're just looking at the screen and you're thinking, how do I do this? Like that style. And it's very, very satisfying when you like, you figure out a solution to a puzzle that stumped you for a while, and you're just like, I'm the smartest man alive.
All right.
Yeah, go check it out. It's brilliant. And truly one of my favorite NES games.
Sounds good.
All right, number 4.
Number 4. You already had a shoot 'em up on your list with Parodius, and now I'm gonna choose one, and that is Axelay. Also a game by Konami. Man, remember when Konami made good games? They made a lot of good games in the fucking NES and SNES days. One tends to forget, considering where they are right now, but damn it. Lots of good shit from Konami. Anyway, Axelay is, not only side scroll shoot 'em up, but also from I guess, bottom to top. Maybe, whatever you want to call it. Like
it's a horizontal
and vertical shooter. Right, sorry. Was missing the words. Anyway, yeah, you got both. You got, the stage is always like,
horizontal is Parodius. Vertical is the other style, like top down.
Yeah. You got both in Axelay.
Nice.
They always mix up the stages. Like you get one vertical, you get one horizontal. Always, taking turns, and it's got a kind of neat, kind of frustrating mechanic, as you have like 3 different weapons you can choose from, and you can switch all the time between those weapons. You got a more focused one where you shoot like a big ball of fire forward, and you got one where you got this barrage of bullets around your little ship that you can hit multiple enemies with, and you can switch between those until you get hit, because then once you get hit by a shot from an enemy, you lose that specific weapon you have equipped at that moment, and then you can only use the other 2 that you have left. And it's super interesting, and that makes you like plan out, okay, which weapon, this is a super hard part, which weapon is, the best for this, but also, if I get hit here, do I maybe need that weapon for harder part later? And that, got an element of strategy to it this way. Also, the game looks super good. Yeah, you got some slowdowns here and there, but goddamn, the background art in this is fantastic. Both in the vertical and in the horizontal stages. You got crazy-ass bosses, like crazy-ass stages. Fantastic. It's just fantastic parallax scrolling. Everything looks amazing, and the soundtrack is one of my favorite SNES soundtracks of all time. It's great. It's one of the best. I mean, I'm not the super shoot 'em up guy, but this is definitely one of my favorites of all time, and this needs to be on an SNES Mini, in my opinion. I love that game. I think it's fantastic. And if you play it, you should maybe, first do it easy, because it's like one of those games where once you finish the game, you immediately start, from the beginning, but on a harder difficulty, and you can do like multiple runs. And maybe collect some extra lives in the first easy run, and then use them on normal and hard maybe. But yeah, it's a fun game. Really recommended. I enjoy it a lot.
All right, I've added that to the list. I've literally written it down in my notebook. Sounds like a fun game. The NES, I've never played it, to be honest. I know of it. I've heard the name Axley many times, but I've not played it. The SNES is home to like a whole myriad of like really good space shooters. Just honorable mentions here. R-Type, fuck me, R-Type is just a classic for a reason. It's brilliant, and the SNES version is just like perfect.
Darius comes to mind too. I think Darius Twin is pretty good. Darius
Twin, Super Swiv. Or Super Aleste, I think it's called in some parts of the world. That's a really fucking good shooter. Jesus Christ. So there
Gradius
you go.
3,
Definitely.
I think, is on there too.
Raiden 3? Really?
Gradius 3.
Oh, Gradius 3. I thought you said Raiden 3. I was like, oh shit. No. Shoot me in, bitch. Raiden's awesome. Next, they're going to tell me the Radiant Silver Gun's on the fucking thing.
Nope. Too early for that.
Yeah, like, way too early. Like, yeah, but I'm definitely going to check out Xlay. Yeah.
Right.
That's the good thing, because, like, it's all on ROMs and stuff. Like, shh, FBI, we're lying. We don't do any of this. Like, you can download pretty much anything we recommend, so why not fucking do it? Jesus Christ. I'm definitely going to play Xlay and give it a go. All right, so number 4. Ooh. So this is one of my favorite games from not just when I was a kid, but all the way through until I was an adult. Like, this was a game that even when my brother and I were playing PS2, we would break out the SNES to play this fucking thing. Like, it was a stalwart of our multiplayer games. It used to be like Mario Kart 64. It used to be like Perfect Dark or whatever was going on the PS2. And then it was this game, which was Super Smash TV. Oh, shitballs. So,
Heard of it?
Yeah, Smash TV is a top-down shooter, twin-stick shooter, as we would call it now. Of course, we didn't call it a twin-stick shooter then because there weren't any twin sticks. So, but you use the buttons, the face buttons, like a second stick. So the I don't know what the fucking, without looking at the controller, the Y button or something was up,
yes,
and the X button was down. The X button,
X is probably up, B is down, A is right, and Y is left.
Yeah, whatever human. No, A is left. I'm fairly sure A is right.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Whatever Human Metal said, he knows his shit. He's so fucking nerdy. You just got to bow down to him sometimes. Whatever he said is probably correct. Anyway, and if you press combinations of those buttons, you go in obviously diagonal. So it's basically a twin-stick shooter. And you use the D-pad to move around, use the face buttons to shoot. It works absolutely perfectly. It's 2-player simultaneously on the same screen. It's basically a rip-off of Robotron, if you remember that game. So basically you're in a single screen. Swarms of enemies come at you. You kill those enemies. You pick up power-ups. Like you got like a shield that makes you invulnerable. You can just plow through the enemies. You got the always reliable spreader, basically best weapon in the game, any game. Let's face it. It's just like kick-ass time when you get the spreader. You have like rocket launchers that go through whole groups of enemies. You've got like grenade launcher, which is really powerful but really close range. You have this weird thing that looks like it's firing marbles, but it goes in an arc. But when it lands, it's really powerful. You got various different power-ups, but one of the best things about that game. So hang on, I should say more about the format of the game. After you've cleared the screen, a map screen comes up, and you get to choose which direction to go in. So there'll be like a total of 4 exits to the room, and then you can choose to go up, like left or right. No, never left. Sorry, you can go like up, right, or down. And you can choose to go the shorter direction, which gets you to the boss quicker. Not entirely, not always. However, usually the quicker version takes you to the boss quicker. However, the longer version takes you through bonus prizes, which is where you get like lots of power-ups and extra lives and bonus prizes like lots of money and stuff. That's the other aspect of the game, which is one of the most fun parts of the game. You have 2 players. There'll be power-ups like the weapons, but there'll also be money and presents that crop up. And the real crux of the game, what makes it so fun, is you're trying to work together cooperatively as a team, but you're also trying to get as much money as you can, more than the other player. So it just becomes this mad fucking dash for the cash when it arrives. It's like fuck surviving this thing. I want more toasters. So it's kind of like a comment on society, which is hilarious. And there are huge bosses at the end of the world, which are really insanely difficult. And that's one of the absolute like cruxes of Smash TV. It's so fucking difficult. It's brutal. But it's one of those games that's so fun, so addictive. You just want to play more to just get that little bit further. Can you make that third boss? Can you make Twin Cobra? Like that's the yardstick. If you can make Twin Cobra, for me and my brother, it's like if we make Twin Cobra, we did all right. If we don't make Twin Cobra, we fucked up. My brother and I actually finished that fucking game one single time and went through the endless loop of bonus prizes that comes after you finish the game. But and plot wise as well, it's directly taken from The Running Man. Like it's a game show with this hilarious game host who turns out to be the final boss. A spoiler alert at the end of the game. And he crops up to say things directly from RoboCop. Big money, big prizes. I love it. I'd buy that for $1. It's amazing. And it's just so much fun. I think, for me, hands down, it was the best multiplayer experience I ever had on the SNES. And way outlasted the console's life cycle. It's just so much fun. Get a friend in tow. But when you sit down to play it, you need to know that you're in for a hardcore session. It's not easy, but that's the fun of it. I mean, it really is like incrementally just claw your way a little bit further. So much fun. Any opinions on Smash TV, Human Metal?
I've only heard of it, but many good things. So I put it on my SNES Mini, but I haven't checked it out yet. So,
oh man,
but eventually,
I would. Goddamn, that's the thing. I just want to fly to Germany and just play that with you. That'd be so much fucking fun. Me and you sitting down and play Smash TV together. Fuck me. Not literally. If you do try to fuck me, I'm gonna punch you.
I won't. Don't worry.
All right, number 3. Bring it on. Wait. Sorry. There's one more thing I want to say about Smash TV that is important. Sorry, I totally fucked up and forgot to say this, but Super Smash TV on the SNES is the best version of Smash TV because Smash TV was a really famous game, and you can get it on various Midway collections, like on the PlayStation and the PlayStation 4. But it was originally an arcade game, and the arcade game allows you to keep putting in quarters, right? So the compilation on the PlayStations followed the same thing, where it doesn't matter how many times you die, you can still insert coin, even though you don't have any coins. Yeah, and just continue. That fucks the balance of the game. The SNES version is the best because you have a finite amount of continues. You have 5 continues between 2 players. You lose those continues, it's game over. You can't continue past that. So that brings the challenge into the game. If you could just like keep pumping coins into it, then the challenge is gone because it's not difficult anymore. Because it doesn't matter how many times you fuck up, you could just keep continuing, right? So that's why the SNES version is the best, because it gives you a finite amount of continues. You must complete the game in those continues or die trying. Yeah, that's why the PlayStation version is just not as good. All right.
Good to know.
Number 3.
Number 3 for me is a SNES game that I've only checked out recently, but of course that has quickly rose through the ranks, and that is a game that everybody's wondering, why is Secret of Mana on the SNES Mini and not that? Because, that is considered to be, as a better game by many people. And that's Chrono Trigger, naturally. One of the most well-regarded and well-liked games on the SNES, and one of the best RPG, period. So yeah, what to say about Chrono Trigger that hasn't been said before? It's a grand fucking adventure of a bunch of heroes traveling through time, basically. Chrono and his gang, and it's super fun. You're visiting the Stone Age, kind of a lot of dinosaurs. You're visiting the future. And yeah, it's got a cool active time battle system. It's got great music. It's got fantastic art. It's got a great story. I mean, storytelling in the SNES days, and of course in the NES days, was always kind of limited. But Chrono Trigger is one of those games that story still holds up. Those characters still hold up, and the way the story progresses and everything. And there is no pacing wise, I feel like there's no dead air in that game. It's always fun, and some RPGs struggle with that. Chrono Trigger doesn't, in my opinion. It's always cool. There's always cool stuff happening. The finale is fantastic. Music is amazing, like I said, and yeah, it's a great RPG. It has stood the test of time. I can tell you that because I haven't played it as a kid, because it didn't come out in Europe, and I didn't play it when I first got to work and play on an emulator and stuff. I always skipped on it for some reason, and recently I finally played through that game, and yes, it deserves all the praise it got, and still is still getting. And this definitely, if you got one RPG that you wanna put on your SNES Mini that isn't already on there, it should be Chrono Trigger. It's fantastic. Yes, play that game.
I agree with Human Metal. I think Chrono Trigger is definitely the best RPG that isn't already on the machine. In fact, I would say, in my opinion, I think it's above Secret of Mana, unless you're playing concretely in 2-player mode. Then perhaps Secret
that's
of Mana
probably
is
the
better.
reason why they put Secret of Mana on this over there, because they don't have that many 2-player games on the SNES Mini, and this is a good RPG that you can also play with 2 people. Originally, you could play it with 3 people, but like we already said, the SNES Mini doesn't have the support for that. But still, yeah, that's probably the reason why they chose that over Chrono Trigger, because Chrono Trigger is universally probably the most well-regarded SNES RPG after Final Fantasy VI. So there you go.
It makes sense because Chrono Trigger was great. I never finished Chrono Trigger. I never saw it through to its conclusion. But I really liked what I played. Yeah, and I know I have it on my SNES Mini. That's one of the first games that was like, yeah, that's definitely going on there. So maybe I will go back and perhaps finish that at some point. My own third place, here we go, is, in my opinion, the very best game on the NES, on the original Famicom. So this is a given. Anybody who's listened to the Radiophonic Sea Creatures for any length of time knows this is coming. It's DuckTales. Yes, of course it is. That game kicks ass. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, what to say about DuckTales that hasn't already been said? Nothing really. I mean, it's one of those properly, time dated and stamped classics. With good reason. It has a kick-ass soundtrack. It has mechanics that are absolutely perfect. It has colorful, vibrant levels. Just the right amount of difficulty. Yeah, it's just absolutely perfect. Obviously, if you don't know what DuckTales is and you're like, what the fuck is DuckTales? I mean, hey, why are you listening to this podcast? No, it's a 2D platformer where you pogo. If you press down and the attack button, Scrooge McDuck does like a pogo jump.
Yes.
And you basically pogo off the head of enemies, and you can like hit rocks at things and climb vines and all that good stuff. It has like 5, I think, levels, but they're all visually distinct to one another.
Amazon, Transylvania, the moon, the Himalayas.
Yeah.
That's what you got. Yeah. And then the final.
Africa as well, maybe. Did you forget Africa?
Yes, the mines, right.
Oh, yeah.
Too.
The mines, yeah. So, what makes that game special over other 2D platformers? Well, obviously it's exceptionally designed and it has a kick-ass soundtrack, but it's the exploration. Like, it's sort of open world. The level is not like left to right, Mario style. There are different areas to explore, and you don't have to explore all of the areas either. And some of them, like for example, the really fantastic Transylvania level, are kind of like a maze, and you really need to think
to go through the mirrors.
Yeah, to go through the mirrors, you need to like really think and find your way through. It's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly what is so good about that game, but it has that X element that just makes it so much fun to play, and an absolutely essential addition to your NES library, or in fact the Super Famicom, minis library. Yeah, so a good example of how good it was is they actually made a remake, a decent remake as well, which mostly retrod all of the same steps while adding certain things, which, to be honest, didn't work as well as I thought they.
If I remember correctly, you were kind of ambivalent about the forced exploration in this, because it's like you have to collect these coins and stuff like that, and they did that to extend the length of the levels a bit, which I get.
Yeah. I get
but
that. Yeah,
you weren't too fond of that, I think.
Yes, that's the
looks
point.
Great
like,
though.
One of the problems with the reboot, like as Human Metal was pointing out, which I've said before, is like one of the pleasures of the original DuckTales was exploring. But if you're sent there specifically, it's not exploring, is it? It's just like, hey, go here. There's a coin here, and then you go down there, and then
look at your map.
Yeah, look at your map, and then it forces you to go down there.
There was no map in the NES part, you motherfuckers.
Exactly, but in the NES version, it was a real pleasure to go and explore those places by choice, and to like, there's a spirit of adventure there. What's down here? Oh,
yeah.
Whereas
the thing is,
the remake was just like, go here.
Yeah. Yeah, and in the NES version, you didn't have to explore. You could if you wanted, but you didn't have to. And that's why, again, still a great speedrunning game. You can just breeze through that game if you want to, like as a super fast pace. But if you want to check out, maybe find a bit more treasure, and where does this lead to? You can do that. But you're not forced to. And that's nice, the freedom.
But it might sound like I'm dogging on the remake. The remake is actually pretty decent itself, apart from that weird fucking difficulty spike at the end there. Man, that ramps up at the end suddenly without warning.
Yeah, but I greatly enjoyed that remake. I think it looks fantastic. The music is great. Yeah. It's done by a competent studio, way forward. I wish they would adapt the second DuckTales game too. Maybe that will happen now that we got a new DuckTales cartoon. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe. Who knows what Capcom wants to put money into these days. But I mean, Capcom generally did a great job with the Disney games on the NES. Chip and Dale, Rescue Rangers, both are great.
Darkwing Duck.
DuckTales, of course. Darkwing Duck is fantastic. It's kind of an obvious Mega Man clone, but still great. But yeah, I think still DuckTales is probably the best of the bunch. Yeah. The first one is also a bit better than the second one. The second one was still great, but I don't know. There's some mechanics in there, and it feels a bit slower. Stages are not as cool as in the first one. So yeah, first one is the best.
They kind of made the second one darker and ramped up the epicness of it, but it sort of worked against it somehow. Yeah, in the second one. Also, it's really quite difficult, the second one.
I played through it multiple times, but
yeah, it beasted my ass. I'm not gonna lie to you. But then again, I've never really sat down with the second one and given it like a proper like I'm gonna beat this fucking game. I've not really had that like moment with the second one. But the first one was absolutely perfect, and for me, for my money, I still like the NES version more than the remake. Played through them both. I still prefer to play the original over the remake. Interesting. How about you, Human Metal? If you had a choice, if someone put a gun to your head and said play the original NES version or the remake, which would you play?
Probably, don't get me wrong, probably the remake, because I haven't played that in a while. While I have played the original quite recently again. So just because I was like, okay, this is I haven't revisited that in a while. So
that is such a fucking cop-out answer. Okay, if someone put a gun to your head and said, which one is better?
Oh. Well, the original, probably.
Hey! The man has a soul.
That's debatable.
So, yes, definitely. So, what's number 2? Your camera's spazzing out again. You're smoking weed. Too much weed, you fuck. What's number 2 on your list?
A super dark horse, at least for a lot of people, probably.
Super Putty.
No.
Super Poo.
See...
I'm not joking. There's literally a Super Nintendo game called Super Poon.
I'm not surprised.
I love a bit of Super Poon. Right. Carry on.
Anyway, so I like fighting games, and like we said, I would have put Super Street Fighter 2 over Street Fighter 2 Turbo on the list. But
I would have put the original Street Fighter 2.
No.
What are you talking about? I love that.
That starts pretty much. Yeah, okay, maybe Street Fighter 2 started everything, but if you go back and play that now, especially compared to the later versions, no. But man, still, the Street Fighter games are not my favorite fighting games on the Super Nintendo.
As soon as I see a little tiny bit of Chun-Li's snatch, I'm gone.
The title of my favorite fighting game on Super Nintendo belongs to a franchise that is very near and dear to both our hearts, and that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters. I played the shit out of that game. I loved it. I played way too much money to get that back in the days. I don't know why that was so expensive, or maybe I remember it wrong, but goddamn, I fucking love the fighting game, and it still holds up. Even when put up to Super Street Fighter 2 or Street Fighter 2 Turbo, I think in some parts it's even better and more fun. The special moves are great. You got even super combos, like super specials that are pretty damn awesome. The stages look awesome. The characters are cool. It looks a bit more comic book styled than some of the other Turtles games. It has like a much darker tone to it, and some of the characters didn't really appear in the cartoon, if I remember correctly, and not back in the day. And yeah, it's just a super cool fighting game. Again, Konami doing good work back in the day. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. If you want to try out a fighting game that maybe is not, that on everyone's best list, check out that one, and maybe Gun & Wing Endless Duel. But I don't want to extend that tangent. But yeah, Turtles Tournament Fighters. I don't think there was a version of that on the Genesis. I don't think that is as good, or at least I haven't played it, but I've heard that's not as good as the Super Nintendo version, just when it comes to character roster and look and everything. But yeah, Super Nintendo version of Turtles Tournament Fighters is fantastic. I still love that game. I think it's great, and every Turtles fan should have checked this out. If not by now, check it. Do it now. Great game.
I am a huge Turtle fan, and I have checked out Turtles Tournament Fighter. Humeto, I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't like that game.
Well,
I just don't. Like
opinions are like assholes.
Yeah, you are one. So yeah, I can't. I want to like it. I want to like it so bad. I want to like it
Admit it,
so
you just
bad.
you got your ass kicked by Shredder and Kurai and Red King. I was like, fuck this game, fuck it. And
Yeah,
you got
pretty
drunk
much.
and smashed it on the sidewalk or something.
Yeah, perhaps I should retry that game. But I remember having that literal reaction to that game. Literally, the exactly that reaction. I was playing
It's
the game,
a hard
and
game.
At some point,
It's
I was
a
just
hard
like,
game.
"Fuck this game."
It's a hard game, but it's, so are all fighting games if you play them on a certain difficulty. So,
I mean,
anyway, I think the mechanics hold up really well.
yeah, I think mechanically it's a solid fighting game, but man, it's really unforgiving. And I remember having precisely zero fun with it, which is not something you should really be doing when you're playing a Turtles game. But I did appreciate the fact that it had like Wingnut in it and a couple of the other kind of like more hardcore.
Argon.
Yeah, some of the more hardcore fan servicey type Turtles characters. So that was all good from the comic books and shit. But I don't know, man. I just didn't like it. So,
Well,
but
it
however,
happens.
that said, despite the fact that not liking it, I'm such a huge Turtles fan. I do have it already on my SNES Mini, and it is going to be played at some point. So yeah, there you go.
Your daughter's gonna kick your ass probably.
All right, and now to something completely different. We're going to come on to the second place, which I probably consider to be maybe the best SNES game of all time. Let me think about that for a second. Super Metroid definitely has something to say about that. However, I don't know. Who knows what the best NES game of all time is? It's arbitrary, isn't it? I can't tell you. But it's it's one of these two. It's either Super Metroid, which is already on the Super Famicom Mini, SNES Mini, or this one, which is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4: Turtles in Time. The best scrolling beat 'em up ever made in the history of gaming.
Agreed.
Yeah, and that's not just because it's Turtles as well. That's the Turtles is the very, very extremely tasty icing on the cake, but the core soul of the game is brilliant. The fighting mechanics in the game are just perfect. The stages are incredibly colorful and full of variety. Yeah, but then what the Turtles brings to it are the enemies. The enemies are brilliant. Like, you have all of the classic Turtles enemies in there, all of the bad guys from the TV show. And just as a Turtles fan, it makes you freak out. Like, you get into the sewers and you have those those alien-esque monsters jumping out at you, which
Pizza
come
monsters.
from which come from the episode of the Ninja Turtles, where they have the eggs on the pizzas that hatch. Like little like nods to the TV show like that, and then you fight the fucking Rat King on his like sewer surfer like machine, which I had the toy. I had that fucking toy when I was a kid, man. And you get to fight that guy in the sewers, and it's a great boss fight. And like, you got Baxter Stockman, and it even scores points over the original arcade machine because they took out this generic like rock kind of boss. They had like this rock monster boss, and they replaced him with Slash, who's like a classic Turtles character. Kind of in the wrong place.
Also two extra stages again in the Super Nintendo version.
Great.
And the mechanics are also better because in the arcade version, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure I am, you had, there is a pretty important attack in the game. You get your standard slash and super attack, like in the Turtles 2 arcade game I was talking about before. But you also got a dash that you can run into enemies, and then they keel over and you can grab them and do some other stuff. Either slam them on the ground or throw them into the screen. And that run that you have to do for the dash was automated in the arcade version. But you can switch that in the SNES version to do a double tap and then start the run manually. And that's such a big improvement mechanically wise. It's just so much better. And that's why the Super Nintendo version is so vastly superior, just from a mechanical standpoint, to the arcade version, which is also very sad because they brought that game back in a re-edition called Turtles in Time Reshelled, I think, and they used the arcade version as a basis and not the Super Nintendo version, which means you didn't get the extra stages and you didn't get the manual there. So also no good hit feedback. Fuck that. Fuck Reshelled. That sucks.
And it was just shit. I mean, it was diabolically crap. That game, it was horrible. When you hit enemies, there's this like sound like you were hitting a wet sponge with your hand.
Yeah, they didn't really even react. Probably.
No, it was that was awful. But for example, in the SNES version, so fan-serving was it that you could actually switch the animation styles between the cartoon and the comic books, which was great.
Fantastic.
Like brilliant.
I always pick comic book.
I always picked animation just because that's where my love from the Turtles comes from originally.
I like that the Turtles have like different skin colors in the comic book version. I always appreciated that and made them more, I don't know, different aside from their headbands and everything.
I can agree with that. But even actually though, even in the original cartoon version, the Turtles did have slightly differential skin colors. Even in
slightly,
yes. But you fight all the classic enemies, and the game just kind of like ramps up steadily. Somehow the one great addition they made within the bosses, Slash, turns out to actually be the toughest boss in the game. Bizarrely, like man, he's a tough fucking because he keeps guarding. You can't attack him. You have to like catch him by surprise. He's a real handful. It's a bit easier in 2-player mode. Great 2-player mode, just brilliant.
Have you played the Genesis version, Hyperstone Heist?
I haven't, no. Although I hear
I don't know how that compares.
I only hear general opinion, and general opinion is that it's inferior. So I never wanted to play it for that same reason. It's just
will you though now because you can easily?
Considering the fact that my SNES Mini won't play Western games, probably not. Although I could play it as emulated on my PC or whatever, but doubtful. I mean, why play
Japanese? Isn't that a Japanese version of Hyperstone?
You say the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to people over here, and they're just like, huh?
Well, there's tournament fighters in Japan. It's just called Mutant Warriors, I think. So maybe.
Exactly, Mutant Warriors. They probably don't know who the fuck the Turtles are. No, it's not famous out here. You know, I think 1 out of a million. No, hang on, that's not fair. One out of about 50 people will say, "Oh yeah, I remember maybe something from the 90s." Or they just weren't popular out here, Human Metal, not at all.
But popular with us, very much so.
Yeah, very much so. So there you go. For me, possibly one of the seriously, if I had to seriously compile a list of what the 5 top games on the SNES, that would be absolutely in there. Maybe not number 1, but very close to it.
And the only reason I didn't put it on my list is because I knew Choo Choo would pick it. So there you go.
Yeah, it's just one of those games you must play if you have an SNES Mini, without question.
Yeah, get a friend and stock up on those extra lives with the Konami code and just get in there and have a blast. It's just a fun ride.
That reminds me, that is without the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time, is without question the game on the SNES that I have finished more time than any other game. That's without question. I have blown through that game. Like, there was a time when I used to play through that at least once a year. We're talking like a long time after the Super Famicom life ended. I've played through that game with my daughter at least like 6 times, I think, and we're planning to go through it again soon. Like every weekend, it's like, oh, should we play Turtles in Time? I can't. I have homework, or I have to do something or whatever. But time will come very soon when we will do it again. All right, so here we go. Drum roll, please. Good job, Human Metal. We are.
Sorry.
That was me.
I was caught up in my own head.
That caught up in his own head. That means he's giving himself a blowjob, people.
All right.
He got his 2. But do you know, Human Metal actually got his 2 bottom ribs removed so he could suck his own cock. True story. Human Metal.
If you say so.
Number 1. Ba-ba-ba-bam.
Number 1. All right. So, obviously, again, it's gonna be a Mega Man game. But my favorite Mega Man game, and for probably, like I already said, my favorite, one of my favorite games of all time, if not the favorite game, Mega Man X, is already on the SNES Mini. But there was an iteration of the classic series on the SNES, which doesn't get as much love, even from the fans, as other parts of the series. So I'm obviously going to put it on there as my number 1 spot, and that's Mega Man 7. And yeah, that game is a bit different to the other, definitely to its predecessors and to Mega Man X. Mega Man X, when it came out, was like, oh my god, everything is getting dark, gritty, all the robot masters suddenly look like animals, but really weird and deformed ones, and everything is the city is damaged, everyone is dead, everything is gone to hell. And Mega Man 7 went back to the classic series, and in terms of style, it got really colorful again, really cartoony, for some people even too much, but it was like classic Mega Man on the Super Nintendo, and I loved it. For some people, his sprite was a bit too big in this version, which threw off the gameplay a bit, but man, I enjoyed that game from top to bottom. I think it's fantastic. Super imaginative stages, the art is fantastic, the soundtrack is fantastic. I really love it. It's it's a classic in my opinion, and it's super fun to play through. And yeah, I would have liked to see another Mega Man classic game in that style on a Super Nintendo. Sadly, didn't get it. Next one was Rockman in 4D, and that looked again a bit different. I really like the style of Mega Man 7. It's got so many fun secrets. You can like get into a hidden part in a stage and fight Proto Man and get his shield, and then use that, and you get a super power-up armor that you can also upgrade in the shop. There's so much stuff in that game that is super fun, and it's weird, especially if you consider that this game was like, it was a labor of love, and it was made in like 3 months, which is super crazy considering how it turned out. Like, that it turned out that well is super surprising. It's fantastic. I love it, and a lot of people, don't rank it that high because it's kind of a weird offshoot. Like, it feels really different from the other games, but I enjoy it, and I think it deserves a spot on the SNES Mini as one of the great jump and shoot games out there. So there you go. Mega Man 7, my pick for number 1 here of the games that are not already on the SNES Mini.
Wow, Jesus Christ, you are so predictable, man. If you were a car, you'd be a beige Volvo. You are so predictable. That's like me having my number 1 spot as a Metroid game. That is insanely predictable. Jesus Christ. So,
well, gladly you are totally not predictable at all.
Yes, exactly. So, here we go. My number 1 is actually a game called Super Poon.
That's also kind of predictable.
Who am I kidding? Who am I kidding? No. My favorite game, number 1, it's Metroid. So yeah.
But Super Metroid is already on the Super NES Mini. What Metroid game could you be talking about, Choo?
Exactly. So the NES version had Metroid. The SNES has Super Metroid. So fuck it. RetroArch allows us to play Metroid Zero Mission and Metroid Fusion on a big screen TV. Fuck me. Literally pull down my cax and rape my ass like Kevin Spacey. My God.
Oh, God.
Amazing. So Metroid Zero Mission was a remake of the original Metroid game, but improved it in every conceivable way possible. It was an absolutely fantastic remake. Changed the graphics from 16-bit to kind of like pseudo 2D 32-bit. I don't know. That's pushing it a bit, but 16-bit. Looks better than Super Metroid does. Has the mechanics from Super Metroid, but just refined just a little bit from Super Metroid. Like, some of the weapon selecting from Super Metroid is frankly a little bit clumsy, even though it is a masterpiece game. But they sorted that out in Metroid Zero Mission. It's an absolute perfectly balanced, well-judged Metroid game. Possibly the best 2D Metroid game of all time. Just fan-fucking-tastic game. And then Metroid Fusion is a bit more mixed than Metroid Zero Mission. A lot of people didn't like being told where to go, because one of the things about Metroid is that it's so fun to explore and find kind of your own way.
Going back to DuckTales, which we've talked about earlier,
exactly,
kind of
exactly. And Metroid Zero Mission is, I think, the perfect balance, because Metroid Zero Mission kind of sends a waypoint, sort of somewhere, like a vague waypoint, but you're not told how to get to that waypoint, and you're not told where to go or what you have to do. It just gives the, hey, get here. And then you have to get there, and you have to fill in the map as you go. I think that's the perfect balance between being given some direction and also, trying to find out how exactly to get there and trying to figure out the puzzles between here and there. Brilliant game, perfect game. Metroid Fusion just literally says, this is where you have to go and exactly what you have to do, and sort of annoyingly funnels you down a certain route by locking off other areas. A really bad trait that Metroid Other M kind of picked up on later. However, despite that, Metroid Fusion is also a really fucking fun Metroid game as well, despite its slight faults of funneling down. And at the end, Metroid Fusion does also open up to you completely. But that has so many memorable bosses. I mean, Metroid Fusion is where Nightmare comes from Other M. Fucking hell, Nightmare is quite literally a nightmare.
I haven't played Fusion 4 enough to encounter him, but he was a nightmare in Other M too. So
it's piss easy in Other M, but in Metroid Fusion though, he'll make you wet your pants, Human Metal. He's a beast. But Metroid Fusion has great bosses, fantastic atmosphere throughout. Could have done without the hand holding a little bit, but never mind. Those two games though are as perfect as exploration based platform shooting games come. Not much else to say about that. It's just Metroid at its best.
I of course love Super Metroid, naturally. I also really liked Zero Mission, although I've only played through it once, but what I played I really liked. Yeah, and Fusion I haven't finished. I played I don't know, the first hour or something, and then gave up for some reason. Probably need to revisit it on the big screen or something.
You should definitely do that.
But yeah, all those games are great. I mean, they're good Metroid games. What do you have to say? What else can you say? It's really they all come recommended, and if people haven't checked them out yet, they should definitely. No question.
I would say definitely one slightly interesting fact is that I've finished Zero Mission more times than any other Metroid game. There's no parts in Zero Mission where you feel overwhelmed. I think that's maybe the difference between the games. Because there are parts in Super Metroid that fuck you up. Like Ridley's fight in Super Metroid is just this is a fucking nightmare. I literally, no word of a lie, I got stuck on Ridley from Super Metroid for about 8 years. That wasn't fun. And I would make a point to come back a couple of times every year to try and defeat him. And then one day, finally, after 8 years, I just randomly was okay, I'll just try Ridley. It's just boom. And then I beat him. And my reaction to beating Ridley in Super Metroid was my brother came in the room and was like, don't you move! Don't you go near that power cord! I need to get back to a save point. It's if anybody accidentally turns off my Super Famicom, I'm going to murder everybody in this house with a steak knife. I don't care if there's a random power cut, people are going to die. Pay with their
It's good that didn't happen.
Yeah, I love my brother. But I would have literally killed him. Yeah, but there you go. Hey, that's our list. But what's your opinion? Oh, valued listener, if you have any opinions about SNES games or NES games that we have missed, keep your fucking trap shut. We're not interested, you cunts. I'm joking. No, please sound off in the comment section, and we will definitely read that because we need every fan we can get. God damn it, we're basically the podcast version of hobos here. So hey, please join us next time you feel totally rad and want to hang some bodaciously awesome wicked tens, dude.